everyone, and welcome to the best fantasy series I've ever read. I've read a lot of fantasy books over the years, but this stack that I'm going to be talking about today is some of my all-time favourites, so let's just get right into it. I'm going to start with my all-time favourite, and that is A Dark Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, because I adore this series so much. I will say right now that I am a massive V.E. Schwab fan anyway, so I'm a little bit biased towards this series, but this was also the first thing I ever read from V.E. Schwab, so it kind of also has that little special place in my heart because it was also the first thing I ever read of hers. But this is genuinely fantastic. If you don't know what the series is about, it is following Kell, who is an Antari, which means he's a very rare, very special type of magician, which means that he can travel between worlds, and specifically he has become an ambassador of his London, which is known as Red London, to White London and Grey London. Red London is a London that is filled with magic. It's very magic like positive, and everybody is using magic all of the time. White London is dwindling in magic but desperate for more, and Grey London has no magic whatsoever. There was also Black London years ago, but that has been sealed off for years now because the magic was getting too strong there. And what happens is that Kell finds an artifact from Black London which could then destroy everything, and it all goes from there. And I absolutely adore this series because I love the world building in here. I love seeing all of the similarities and differences between all of the different Londons and seeing all of them kind of vying for magic or like not knowing about magic whatsoever and things like this. I loved all of that push and pull. I loved all of the characters as well in this. Specifically, I adore Kell. He is one of my all-time favourite fantasy characters of all time. I adore Lila as well because I adore a character who is just not going to take things lying down and is going to get involved. I love her character and her journey. I love Rai as well, who is Kell's brother, who has no magic whatsoever, and seeing him deal with that while also being a prince of Red London. I loved everything to do with that. I loved actually Rai and Alucard's relationship as well, because Alucard is one of my all-time favourite characters as well. He is brilliant. I love all of those characters. I love Holland as well. Holland is fantastic in this series, along with his storyline, which is also brilliant, if brutal, I will say. But all of it is just fantastic. All of the characters, the world building, the storyline, watching it all unravel and build up to Conjuring of Light was so much fun to read. I adored each and every single one of these books. I am adoring Fragile Threads of Power as well, which is the new spin-off series, which is set a few years after Conjuring of Light, and I just love this series so much. It ticks so many boxes for me. I adore it, and I always recommend it to absolutely everybody who is looking to get into fantasy. Another one I absolutely love is Godly Heathens. This is by H.E. Edgman, and it is fantastic. This is following a group of teenagers who are actually reincarnations of gods from another universe, and they are trapped in our universe, and some of them just want to get home, whereas others don't. And the thing is that our main character is the one who kind of sent them to this world, and none of the other gods are very happy with them about it. And it all goes from there. Everybody in this series is incredibly morally grey to evil, so if you love those type of characters, you will love that in this book, because there are so many morally grey to evil characters. I genuinely don't know if there's any singular good character in here, because all of them are quite frankly morally grey to evil, which I absolutely loved. The character dynamics throughout everybody was so interesting to read about as well. I loved all of that. I love the magic in here as well, and exploring all of those different types of powers, and seeing all of these kids wake up and realise that they are gods, and having those memories throughout the decades and the centuries, and also their own world. I found all of that fascinating. The way the story also evolved the whole way through the two books was absolutely fantastic, and I devoured this series. It was incredible. And once again, I will recommend this series to anybody because it is fantastic and so underhyped. It seriously needs more hype in it because this was so good. There is also The Discworld by Terry Pratchett, and this is one of my all-time favourites as well. I will say I haven't read everything yet, just because I'm trying my hardest to stretch out these books for as long as physically possible, because obviously Terry Pratchett is not around anymore to write any more of these books, so I'm trying to stretch them out for as long as physically possible. But whenever I read one of these books, I adore it. I think it is so much fun to read. If you do not know what The Discworld is about, it is essentially a satirical fantasy take on our world where everything is around about the same but just slightly different. It's in a kind of slightly medieval kind of time in a lot of ways, and it's just very much like a fantasy satire on our world. And within the Discworld there are many different series. So you've got things like The City Watch, which is about the policeman of Ankh-Morpork. You've also got Rincewind, who is a failed wizard of the Unseen University. You've also got the witches, who are like Granny Weatherwax and Granny Aching, who end up dealing with various different witchy things that happen on the chalk. And then also, if you want a more middle grade style of things, you can also read the Tiffany Aching series, which is about a young witch on the chalk. And then also you have the Death series, and Death is literally the guy with the scythe, the Grim Reaper, going around having his own adventures as well. Or if you want something adjacent to that, you've also got the Susan series, which is about Susan, who is the granddaughter of Death, and her getting involved with various things as well. And everything about this series is so well done. The world is so fully realised, and what is so clever about it is that you can pick up literally any book within the Discworld and you will understand what's going on. Even if it's like book 5 in, say, the Rincewind series, you will still fully understand what's going on. You don't need to read the previous books first if you don't want to. If that specific book is calling to you for whatever reason, you can just pick it up and read it. Yes, you will miss a few things, but the world will still be fully realised within that book. You will fully understand what's going on, and I think that is so genius to do within a book series. So you can just pick and choose whichever books you want to read at any time you want to read them, and I love that about this series. I also love that there's loads of standalones in here as well, so if you're not fancying reading about any of those characters, you can also then go on to read things like Moving Pictures, which is about them discovering film essentially and creating Hollywood within the Discworld. You've also got The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents, which is about Maurice and a whole bunch of rodents who essentially got hit by magic and have now gained sentience, and now they're basically conning villages out of food and money, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. There's also a fantastic animated movie out of that as well, which I highly recommend. And there's just literally something for everyone. There is a story for everyone in here. There's a book for practically anything as well, in terms of like your mood or what you fancy reading about that day. And also the satire of this series is completely and utterly on point. Even though this was written like 20-30 years ago in some cases, the satire is definitely still completely and utterly on point, which I also adore. And I just love this series so much. I talk about it a lot, but I genuinely adore the Discworld so much. Like I said, there is something for everybody, and there's a book for practically every single mood. There's even Shakespeare retellings in here, for God's sake. There is literally something for everybody. And it just makes me adore this series even more. I love everything that this has to say in these books. I love the storylines in here. I love that there's literally something for every occasion. So if I'm fancying reading a middle grade book, I can read about Tiffany Aching. If I'm fancying reading a Shakespeare retelling, I can also be reading one of those ones, because there's a couple in there. There's also like City Watch if I want to fancy reading a more sort of like police type thing. If I want to read about death, I can read about the Death series, and there is so much in between as well. Discworld is such a fantastic all-round series. I adore it, and again, cannot recommend it enough. The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin is another one, because this one is about what happens when cities grow to a certain size and they then become sentient, and they end up with one person basically representing that city, and they then have to protect that city from multiversal threat. And it is so well done. I've never been to New York, which is where this is set, and the city that is actually becoming sentient, but after reading this I felt like I really knew the place and like I'd actually been there and maybe lived there, because it was done so well in explaining what New York is like, what all the boroughs are like, and everything else. I thought that was done fantastically well. I loved all of the character dynamics in this as well. I thought they were done brilliantly. I loved everything to do with that. I also loved how diverse all of the characters were. So you had a lot of characters of colour, and you also had a lot of queer characters as well, which again was absolutely fantastic. And I loved the multiversal elements of this one as well. I am always a sucker for a multiverse story, and this one absolutely nailed those elements as well. It's definitely one of the best multiverse stories I've ever read, and it was just so good. I already knew I liked N.K. Jemisin after reading the 5th season, but this one absolutely solidified her as one of my favourite authors, because it was done so well. It gave me those kind of like superhero elements in a way, while also giving me multiversal stories and also basically awakening cities, which was a fascinating concept to read about, and I just adored it. And again, I'm going to say this for every single one, but I do genuinely recommend this to everyone because it is done so well and is so worth the read. The final one, actually, I will not be recommending to everyone because it is so dark and so gruesome and so gory. I know it will not be for everybody, but I genuinely adore this book. It is Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaeffer, and this series, which is the Market of Monsters series, is definitely one of my favourites because it is done so well. This one is following Nita, who is a young girl who is part monster in a world where basically everyone knows monsters exist, and her mum has been hunting monsters her entire life and dissecting them and selling those parts on the black market. And what happens when one day Nita is kidnapped and attempted to be sold on that black market? It all goes from there, and it is so much fun to read. Like the Godly Heathens book, this is filled with morally greater evil characters, though I would say these ones are definitely more on the evil side of things, and I love that about them. I love that there was no sort of like moment of going, oh, we should be the good guys. It was like, no, we're doing whatever we have to survive, and we're not going to care about it, which I absolutely adored. I loved all of that. I love the world of this one as well. I love that it was a world where everyone knew monsters existed. I thought that was fantastic. I loved everything to do with the black market. I thought it was done so well. Again, I love how this built up and how it sort of explored all of these different types of monsters and stuff. It was so much fun, so well done, and I adored this series. Like, you have no idea. It's not going to be for everyone, I will say, and I definitely recommend checking out the trigger warnings for it. But if you do like think this sounds good, definitely give it a try, because again, it is so underhyped but so well worth the read. My camera battery is now flashing at me, so I'm going to very quickly wrap this up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me what your favourite fantasy series of all time is. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a star emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to my bookish Etsy store if you want to treat yourself to something bookish today. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But till next time, everyone, bye!